Hey everybody, this is my 125 gallon native tank, and I'm in the middle of doing a water change right now, so I thought I would spend a few minutes talking about the tank. I've actually got a few things on my mind that I want to chat about, and first of all I want to talk about this great big chunk of wood we've got right here. I put that in here about a week ago. I've got some new fish in my quarantine tank in the bathroom, and this piece of wood had been sitting in that quarantine tank just basically to keep it submerged in water and keep it waterlogged. The fish I have in the tank need some sort of cover on it. They are potential jumpers. That's all I'm going to say about that. And so I had to put a piece of plexiglass over the top of the tank, and in doing so I had to remove this piece of wood. So I stuck it in this tank, and I don't really like it. But I will say I don't like it less than I didn't like it before. In other words, it's kind of growing on me. I don't really want to go so far as to say it's growing on me, because that implies I'm actually kind of getting to like it. But I will say I don't dislike it as much as I used to. I'm sort of getting used to it being in there, I guess would be a better way of saying it. It's sort of, I'm acclimating to it. So there have been some times I've come down and the fish have been sort of lingering around in it and swimming through the little nooks and crannies. I've seen the crayfish crawling on it in some really awesome ways. I haven't yet got any pictures or any video of it, but I will at some point. In theory, it's temporary. Once I get the quarantine tank opened up again, I'll be able to pull this out and stick it back in there. What I'm saving it for, I have no idea. That's not like a small piece of wood that I can just throw in some tank when I put one together somewhere. That needs a pretty substantial tank to go in, and I don't really know what I would do about getting myself that substantial of a tank. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was why I'm doing the water change on this tank. I found 2 more dead shiners in here this evening when I went to feed the tank, and they were really gross dead, and when I opened up the lid, like, you could smell they were dead fish in there. It was gross. So we're doing a water change to get some of that funky water out of there. But I'm not sure what's going on. I bought the fish from a bait and tackle shop. They were basically bait shiners. I got large shiners. And I really didn't expect a lot of them to survive more than their first week. And what happened was the first 10 days I didn't lose a single fish. I couldn't believe it. Everybody, not a single loss in the first full 10 days I had them in the tank. And then they started dropping. Or I should say rising in this case, because they all floated. But I've lost, I'd say, the majority of them. I don't really know. I haven't bothered to keep count. But I'd say I'm down to about 6 shiners in there. And I started with 14. And I'm just guesstimating on the 6. I'm just looking around and I see more than 2 or 3, but it's not many. So I'm not really sure why they hung on for as long as they did, and then they started dying off. The reason they're so popular for bait fish is because they're so hardy and easy to maintain. You don't suffer a lot of losses if you're a retailer and you're keeping these in a storage, bin with the water flowing. So again, it could be my water. That's what I usually chalk these sort of mystery deaths up to. I have no idea what's going on. And lastly is probably the most curious part of what's going on, and that is, we kind of have to see it in the reflection over here, and that is what appears to be a dead crayfish in the back of the tank. It's the big crayfish that was in there. I thought maybe that's where the bad smell was coming from, but I looked in here a little while ago, and it was actually waggling its claws and legs around like it was trying to get up, and it was even doing so with enough force that it was lifting its body up off the ground. So it was moving around again just a few minutes ago, but has since stopped. Got a little one sticking his little face out there. So I wasn't really sure if it's dying. I'm pretty sure it's dying, but I'm not 100% sure it's dying. It could be getting ready to molt, and it's waiting for its shell to soften up some more before it can start splitting out of it. I really don't think that's the case. I really think it's just back there dying. So again, I'm not sure what's going on with that. Crayfish are tough as nails. They can live in just about any kind of conditions. And so if the tank's a little dirty because I got a couple of dead fish in there, even if there's a little bit of an ammonia spike, I cannot imagine that it's affected that crayfish that way without killing all of these minnows first. If there's going to be enough ammonia in the tank to affect a crayfish like that, then all these minnows would certainly be dead. So I really don't think that's what it is, and the fish have not been in here for more than, I'm going to say at the most 48 hours, but I don't even think they're in there that long. I checked last night before I went to bed, and I didn't see any dead fish in there. So how they got as sort of funky and gross and nasty as they did, I'm not really sure. But they did. Maybe they were dead and stuck under a rock or something, and they got knocked loose and floated to the surface today. I don't know, but as of last night when I went to bed, there was no floaters in there, no dead fish that I could see. So again, I really don't think there's any issues with my water in those regards. I think it's just my water, my sodium in my water affecting the minnows, but it just seems odd that it took so long for it to start affecting them. Or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's aggression from the crayfish. I've noticed that the crayfish seem to go after the shiners, but they tend to leave the creek chubs alone. I'm not really sure what that's all about. I found that to be very curious. But maybe that's why I'm losing so many of the shiners. Maybe the crayfish are getting to them. But I don't see a lot of damage to their bodies. A lot of them just are intact, floating dead, and one or both of their eyeballs are missing. So maybe the creek chubs are getting to them after they're dead. Not really sure. I haven't really witnessed any of this. I either see what I'm seeing now, where they look normal and swimming around, or I come in here and they're dead and floating. I never see them in between. I never see them swimming funny. I never see them attacked by anything. So I'm not really sure what's going on with that. I did want to say that I'm probably going to give that crayfish till tomorrow morning. And if it's still in there doing that and hasn't sloughed yet or whatever, I'm probably going to go ahead and pull it out. I don't think it's going to be alive. I've seen my crabs doing this. And the longest I've ever seen one do it was for like a day and a half before it finally died. Usually when they're on their back, moving very feebly like that, means they're, on their last legs, and no pun intended. So probably going to be getting rid of that big crayfish. And hopefully maybe in the next couple of days, if the rain stops, I'll be able to get down to the stream again. And we'll see about maybe getting down there and throwing the crayfish trap out, or even just using the net and trying to catch a few crayfish and getting the tank stocked back up a little bit before the really cold weather hits, and then I won't be going outside doing much of anything at all. So let me get going on with it. I'm actually going to go ahead and test my water now that I've been talking about it. That won't be in this video, but the next update I do, if I found anything unusual or there was any ammonia or anything, I've no doubt I will discuss that in my next video. So make sure you're subscribed, that way you won't miss the next video. And don't forget, this one is my native tank. I do have plenty of others, but this one's my native tank. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one.